It is another week, bright and early on a Monday morning. We have maybe the most boring slate in the history of college basketball tonight. As always, we are powered by our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. My name is Rob Dauster, that handsome man that you see on the other side of me, wearing the same white tee that he recorded the Bill Self podcast yesterday. He's the one and only Jeff Goodman. Jeff,
why do you got to throw me under the bus? Why do you got to throw me under the bus like that?
Hey, look, I have 17 different white T-shirts too. Can I show you the T-shirt I have on right now, though?
Go ahead.
This is what I get for Valentine's Day presents these days. It's not a dad bod; it's a father figure.
That's very cute. Gabrielle, take care of you there.
Yeah, I have 8 million of these T-shirts now, so I might just bring a new one on the string every single day. See if we can find one that's lucky. Maybe get some wins on bet.
Well,
hey, I'm climbing back, man. I'm climbing back. So how about this? Let me bring it up right now. Let me show you. Let me tell you exactly where I am in terms of profitability. At my low point, I was down. Right, total. I was down about $650. Right.
Okay.
That was on February 3rd. Today, I am only down $197.
Wow, look at you.
Scrapping back. I told you. Don't call it a comeback, man.
And it's been going the other direction.
Eventually, you know what's going to happen? Eventually, we're going to meet in the middle at zero, and the only people that have made money out of this entire year are the books.
Yeah, probably. No,
congratulations, Rivers. We paid for our own advertising.
I'm still at what, 56% from the year.
Yeah, I mean you're good. You're up. We just got to get hot.
I'm 10 games over 500 on BetSports. That's what I look at. That's how I take a positivity. I'm 10 games. I'm 151 and 141 on BetSports. So
all right. So
anyway.
Let's, before we get into tonight's slate, which is basically tonight's game, which is basically Virginia against Florida State for ACC supremacy, which should be really good and a really interesting matchup.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about what we kind of saw yesterday because Jeff, I don't know if you know this, but Michigan is officially back. They're back, baby.
They are back. They are back. And coming off a 23-day layoff, we've seen what other teams have done coming off long layoffs. To come off a 23-day layoff and win a game at the Kohl Center against a ranked Wisconsin team. I get it's not the Kohl Center that we're used to with fans, but it's still a road game against a ranked team, a team that I think I had preseason like number 6 or 7 in the country, which Robbie Hummel told me I was crazy. What I told him was I felt like out of the gates, Wisconsin would be better than a lot of teams because they had everybody back. I never bought into their talent level, but I bought into the fact that they were a team that did really well the second half of last year and they returned everything. And they did pretty well coming out of the gates. But yeah, Michigan, listen, I can't say enough about this team now. I was so wrong about them in the preseason. I had them ranked like 42nd or something like that. And a lot of it was I didn't know how good Mike Smith would be. And I felt like if you don't have a point guard, I don't care what you got around him. I love Hunter Dickinson. I always loved Hunter Dickinson. I like, Livers, obviously terrific player. We didn't know how good Chande Brown was going to be coming in on his role. So Michigan, you've completely won me over. Juwan Howard, you have completely won me over. You are the outlier to the former NBA player who's made $100 million and is successful coaching college basketball.
Yeah, so I'm not ready to say that Michigan belongs in the same tier as Baylor and Gonzaga because they are I think those two teams have set themselves apart from everybody else. Michigan had a slip up where they lost by 20 to a Minnesota team that can't beat Maryland, right?
True.
Gonzaga's never had that. Baylor's never had that. So I think that there's a different level there. But I think that all of those conversations we had about who is the third best team in college basketball are completely moot now and complete waste of time. And we're so dumb that we didn't just say, hey, you know what? It's Michigan. And for me, look, here's what made that win so impressive, right? If you go back and Brendan Quinn over at The Athletic had some really good stuff on kind of what Michigan went through during their time off. So I would suggest that you go sign up to The Athletic and go read his content. If you are a Michigan fan, if you're not doing it already, I don't know what you are doing with your life. But it was basically like they weren't allowed to get into the Michigan athletic facilities for 2 weeks, except for COVID testing. The only thing that they could do was do recorded workouts from their house that were sent to them by the Michigan strength and conditioning coach, which I mean, if you're in your house or your apartment or your dorm, like how much work are you actually doing? There was a quote from, I think it was Isaiah Livers that he gave to Brendan that said, when our first practice back, it felt like our first practice in the summer, just because of like how tired you were and how quickly you kind of lost it. And when they came in on Sunday, they got behind by 14, right?
Yep.
They were down big early, and they came all the way back. But it wasn't like a thing where they just started forcing turnovers, and it wasn't a thing where it's like they hit a whole bunch of threes and just had like this 17-0 run that came out of nothing because Wisconsin melted down. What happened was they sat in the stands for 30 seconds on every single possession and made life hell for Wisconsin. They allowed it was 0.58 points per possession in the second half after giving up 1.37 points per possession in the first half. What they did was just play tough defense for 30 seconds every possession. And like that takes such a toll on your legs.
Yes.
Like, if you're sitting in a stance and sliding for 30 seconds, like that is how you wear yourself out. And they did it despite not being in shape, despite being down 14 on the road against a team that doesn't give up comebacks like that. Wisconsin doesn't turn the ball over. They don't make mistakes. They drain the clock better than anybody in college basketball this side of Tony Bennett.
I will put that.
Like that was one of the most impressive performances.
I was just going to say that all year of any team anywhere. Period. I mean, again, you'll go through and say, well, Gonzaga pounding the crap out of whether it's Iowa, whether it's Virginia, whatever. Like there were some impressive performances. When you add in the fact that they were off and unable to do what so many – now, they were smart too. They didn't come right back. Now, they couldn't, right? Like, but some teams are. Some teams are coming right off a pause and playing like 4 days later. Michigan, Juwan Howard was at least smart enough to look at the bigger picture, and they could. They had to protect their equity they have built up, right? Like you can't come out of the gates, lose this one, and then you're worried about your kid's psyche a little bit. Right, all that. So they were smart enough to say, like, we're not going to play sooner than we feel we're ready to play.
Yeah, and honestly, like it should be like that for everybody else in the country.
But it's not. It's not.
To me, it's like a player health and player safety issue to come back.
That's the NCAA's fault. That's the NCAA's fault for not moving back the NCAA tournament. That's the problem. When they didn't move back the NCAA tournament from March to May, which they could have done, I'm told. They could have done it. Like TV would have done it. Then ultimately what they did there was say every team that was coming off a 14-day pause, especially early on, because they didn't know if they were going to get their 13 games in to be eligible for the postseason. They're all rushing back. And even now, some of them are going to rush back if they don't have 13 games. Well, who the hell cares? I mean, it's so stupid. Like all they had to do was push it back to May. Nothing's going on in May. Nothing's going on. Like, could have easily done this so the teams wouldn't have had to rush back.
And it's not just the rushing back. Like, so Fred Hoiberg was talking about this the other day, and we kind of mentioned it briefly on the podcast yesterday. But the schedule that Nebraska is being forced to play, it's like it's honestly it should be considered unacceptable.
Right. You're right.
There's the player welfare is just like there's no consideration for it whatsoever. They're playing 7 games in 12 days in 5 states.
They don't care at all.
It's a joke. It's a joke. And putting those kids through that, it's just I got the schedule right here. So here's what they played. On Saturday, February 6th, they were at Michigan State. That Monday, the 8th, they were at Minnesota. On that Wednesday, they played home against Wisconsin. On Friday, they played at home against Illinois. Yesterday, they were at Penn State. Tomorrow, they're at Maryland. Wednesday, they're at Maryland. That's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games between February 6th and February 17th, playing in Maryland, in Pennsylvania, in Nebraska, in Minnesota, and in Michigan. That should not be acceptable. That should not be something that is happening in college basketball this year.
I got one for you. And I tweeted it. SIU Edwardsville. We'll get to it today on today's slate. SIU Edwardsville is playing its 13th game in 25 days today. 13th game. They're playing Murray State at home. I mean, like, how is this? How is it right? How is it right? And again, part of this is on the NCAA. Part of it is on obviously the Ohio Valley Conference, because this isn't what SIU Edwardsville wants to do, but this is the schedule they're dealt. They're going to play these games. And you know what? I am shocked, Rob. I am absolutely shocked that we haven't had more like major injuries this season. Now, maybe we have and we just don't know it. But I feel like ultimately we haven't had as many, knock on wood, to like high major teams that I thought we'd have.
Yeah, and I think that stuff like this is going to show up in terms of like muscle strains and hamstring issues more than it is going to be yeah, but it's also like look at teams like Tennessee. Part of the reason Tennessee's having some of their issues is just they're just so banged up at this point. You know, Yves Pons has a bad knee and John Fulkerson has a bad wrist, and there's guys on that team that are just banged. Like, and I'm sure they're not the only team that has a bunch of guys that are beat up at this point in the season.
Very true.
It's not just physically; it's mentally. So it is what it is. I don't really know like what else to say about it beyond like it's hard. And you know, it was actually very interesting. And I'll give you credit for this one. The podcast that you recorded with Bill Self, which is going to drop for us at noon today, is hearing him talk about. He actually says like winning is just not as important this year.
Right. Yep.
And it's one. It's nice to hear a coach of Bill Self's stature say that and come out publicly and say that. And two, it's something that we all need to acknowledge, right? Like it's what all of these players are going through is the same thing that you and I are going through, and the people that are listening to this are going through, and it's not easy, man. So I give these kids a lot of credit for going out there and playing as hard as they do, and for as long as they have, and just to be able to make sure the NCAA gets that $900 or $900 million paycheck. That's
probably only going to be $850 this year. Just so you know, Rob, without fans in attendance, merchandise is going to go down. They're only going to get about $850. It's tough.
Unbelievable. How much are the players getting to that cut?
The percentage would be a big fat zero, Robert. A big fat zero. Nothing.
Oh man. All right. So let's talk about tonight's slate. It's pretty short. There's one really interesting game. It is Virginia at Florida State. For my money,
you're disrespecting Stephen F. Austin in New Orleans here, by the way.
If they can find a way to get out of the snow to play that game,
2 o'clock. 2 o'clock tilt. You think it goes off? What
I don't know, man. The Deep South is not built for the amount of snow that they're getting. I can't wait to see the videos of Gary Parrish trying to shovel his driveway in Memphis. It's gonna be great.
He's going to be buried. He's only 4'6". So
do you think GP actually has a snow shovel?
No, hell no.
Yeah, there's no way he does. How do you think he's going to get out? Do they have snow plows in Mississippi?
No, he's going to call his neighbor to come over and help him. 100. Actually, no. I got a better one. He's going to have his wife Kelly shovel him out.
Yeah, probably.
Poor Kelly.
I would trust her more with a shovel than I would trust Gary Parrish.
No doubt. No.
Anyway, all right. Virginia at Florida State. Florida State's laying 1.5. The total in that game is 129.5. Jeffrey Goodman, where do you stand?
I don't. Like, I'm so confused by this game. You know, 2 top teams in the ACC. When did we ever think we'd say that, right? Like Virginia and Florida State are clearly the 2 best teams in the ACC.
Well, they were.
I know.
They were.
I know
the year that they won the title. The year that Virginia won the title.
But now you're not like.
No,
like,
because
they're still there. I guess what we're saying is like they're still there, right? Like Tony Bennett is there every year now. Leonard Hamilton is there every year now for the last 5 years, and they're not going away. I guess that's my surprise more than anything. But here's my thing with Virginia, and I've been pretty adamant about this all year, is we don't know still how good Virginia really, really is because the ACC is not great. And do you want to guess on Virginia's best win this year? Give me a top 40 team that they've beaten so far this year, Rob Dauster.
Their best win, isn't it Georgia Tech? Am I wrong on that? I think
Georgia Tech is 58th in Ken Palm and 61st in the net. So you're wrong.
Clemson's their best win. North Carolina, yeah, they don't have a great win. But that's what they were last season too.
Clemson is their best win. Clemson is 46th in Ken Palm, 45th in the net. They've beaten Syracuse, who's 57th. They've beaten NC State, who's like 100. They beat Pitt, who's like 80. Notre Dame twice. They're 50. So anyway, long story short, we don't know how great Virginia is. Like they're in the top 10 in all the metrics, And I still say, like, why? Like, what have they done to earn a top, like, one of them has them at like 7. Like,
Well,
7.
I'm not going to sit here and try to explain how pace adjusted and schedule adjusted efficiency metrics works, because like the fact that you don't understand it at this point in 2021 tells me that there's no way that you're ever going to get it. And trying
Unless
to
we get Kenny Pop on here, you're right.
Trying to talk to you about see the problem is you would rank after watching Loyola's win over Drake and the Drake's win over Loyola, you put that on a par, right? Because you're all about results, you put that on a par. Whereas Loyola's win over Drake is much more impressive than Drake's win over Loyola. You are essentially the RPI of rankings.
No, I wouldn't put it, because
Tank
was out.
I'm going to start calling you. I'm going to start calling you the GPI. You are. Anyway, so also, having said all that and having roasted you for it, I actually agree. Like Virginia's like kind of unproven at this point in terms of what they are. I think there's a little bit of like that Wisconsin effect. I don't know if you remember this, but like in the early teens, Wisconsin was always like completely overrated and overvalued by Ken Palm's by Ken Palm's formula, because they would blow out bad teams and win by like 40 playing a really, really, really slow pace, and that just completely skewed what their rankings were in his algorithm. So I think there might be a little bit of that going on, but I think this matchup to me is very, very, very worrisome for Virginia for a couple of reasons. One,
oh boy, look at you.
Yeah, well, one, I think that Kihei Clark runs into trouble when he has to go up against big athletic defenders at the point guard spot. And he's going to have to, because like every single person that has played for Leonard Hamilton at Florida State for the last decade has been 6'6" and athletic, right? Like it's like a factory that they have.
Pretty much. Well, they know what to recruit.
Yeah,
like, give them credit. Their assistant coaches now know exactly what Leonard Hamilton wants and needs for this system. Like I give them credit. They can find it down there in the South. It's easy for them to find those long and athletic dudes. Yeah.
So I mean, obviously those long and athletic dudes are going to give Kihei Clark some trouble. I mean, we know that about Virginia and their offense. The other part of it is that they have, like, where Virginia kind of creates mismatches is because their best 3-point shooters, the guys that make everything, that create all the space for them, are their 5, their 4, and their 3. Right. It's Trey Murphy, it's Sam Hauser, and it's Jay Huff, and they make themselves very difficult to guard because their entire front line just stands around the perimeter, and like you cannot let them get open threes. If Sam Hauser gets an open 3, he's making it. Yeah. If Jay Huff gets an open 3, he's making it. If Trey Murphy gets an open 3, he's making it. And like, there's not going to be that matchup problem with Florida State because they switch everything, and they have guys that are, like we said, everyone is big and they can guard on the perimeter. So what Florida State's defense basically does is make you win in isolation. Yep. You can't run your stuff against Florida State and have success. You have to beat them in isolation. And I don't know how Virginia necessarily does that. That said, I think that Virginia will be able to stop them. So there's two things I like here. I think I probably lean towards Florida State in terms of what that line is, especially since it's at home. But I think I like the under more in this spot, because I don't think that Florida State's going to have a very easy time scoring against Virginia. But I also don't think that Virginia's going to really be able to run much offense. And last year, when Florida State still had 2 lottery picks on their roster, both of these games went under 129. It was 61-56. Virginia won at home, and Florida State won in Tallahassee 54-50.
All right, so I'm going to give you a couple factors that play into my confusion with this game. Number one is Florida State was coming off a pause recently and squeaked by Wake Forest. That's worrisome, no doubt about it. I mean, if you're that good, you're not squeaking by Wake Forest. But again, you've been in a pause for a couple of weeks, so we know how that usually works out, other than a team like Michigan. Number two, so that's kind of why I'm like, man, Virginia. They're good on the road. They're 5-1 on the road this year. But here's the stat of the day, Rob. Here's the stat of the day. Florida State has won 23 straight home games in the ACC. 23 straight. The record is 26. Duke won 26 straight from 1997 to 2000. So the Donald Tucker Center, I think that's what it's called. Not positive on that, but I think so, has been kind to Florida State. And no, they don't have fans there today, so it'll be a little bit different. But they've won 3 of their last 4 against Virginia in Tallahassee. They own everybody in Tallahassee lately. They have that confidence, and this is an older team. These are guys, not a bunch of freshmen other than Scotty Barnes. This is a team, both teams. You want to know why they're successful, Rob? Here's why. Virginia, Sam Hauser, redshirt senior. Jay Huff, redshirt senior. Kihei Clark, junior. Trey Murphy, junior. Reese Berkman is a freshman. He's the only freshman, obviously the only underclassman in Virginia's team. Florida State, senior, MJ Walker. Redshirt juniors, Wyatt Wilkes, Raekwon Gray. Balsa's a sophomore. He's the only one. And then you got Rickwan Evans is a senior. So look no further than the starting lineups and the veterans in the experience. And we've talked about this countless times. Experience this year matters more than ever.
Yeah, I'm with you. So you're on Florida State then, I'm assuming?
You convinced me.
Yeah.
You actually convinced me to go Florida State. I came into this pod having no idea which way I was going. But yes, I'm going to say Florida State. Their dominance at home, their trust that they can win at home, and a bunch of guys who have done it over and over and over gives me that.
All right, since we are both on Florida State, I would just like to now congratulate Virginia on their win in Tallahassee tonight, since that's guaranteed to happen if I talked you into something. So the only other high major game of the night is Washington at Washington State. Wazoo is laying 7. Goodman, give me a reason why I shouldn't push all the chips in the middle on the Fighting Kyle Smiths.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm kind of with you here. Washington's been an abomination all season long. The only reason I would say, what are you laughing at?
That's a good word. I like it. Abomination.
They have. I mean, we love Mike Hopkins. Everybody loves Mike Hopkins. He needs to do something. He needs to do something here after the year. I would assume it'll be a lot of coaching turnover within his staff. That's what I would guess. But, usually these games, you go with taking 7.5 in a rivalry, an in-state rivalry game in which Washington has always been considered the favorite here, the big dog, compared to Washington State that has been awful for years. I just can't. I can't bring myself to take the points. I can't do it. Washington is not a good basketball team, and Washington State, their trajectory is moving this way, and Washington it's a flat out tanking. I mean, it's like they think there's going to be a draft and they're tanking for the number 1 overall pick or something. They're that bad.
Yeah, they are. They're not very good. And Washington State they are solid and they are well coached and they have really good players, and their point guard Isaac Bonson can really, really go. Yeah. They got a center in F.A. Abogidi that I love, even though he hasn't really been great in recent weeks. And they're laying 7. I'm all over it. Laying 7 at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. And real quick, let me just tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with them yet, now's the time. They are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit, but what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. When you win at Bet Rivers Sportsbook, they pay fast, and now it's even faster with RushPay instant approval for withdrawals. It's safe, it's secure, it's reliable. I know because I use them. So with March Madness right around the corner, there's never been a better time to give Bet Rivers Sportsbook a try. Go to betrivers.com today or download the Bet Rivers iOS app. You must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Jeffrey, are there any mid-major games that you're interested in?
No, but yeah. I'll take Murray. The line's risen from 10 to 11.5 against SIU Edwardsville, but we went through it before. Again, playing as many games they have here. I'm going to take Murray, even though Murray's not traditionally Murray right now. Can I get one thing off my chest? I know you're not a big NBA guy, but the Boston Celtics right now are 500, Rob. I don't know if you've noticed this. They're 500 right now at 13 and 13, believe it or not. And people around these parts, like my buddies, want Brad Stevens gone. They just lost to Detroit, the Pistons, and Washington in back-to-back games at home against Detroit. at Washington, they were completely embarrassed. And I'm telling you, like Brad Stevens, I'm not saying he's gone, but like if he doesn't turn this thing around a little bit, fans are on his ass right now here.
Yeah, so that's great news for Indiana fans because obviously there's nothing he wants more than to go back to Indiana and get back into the college ranks. I don't know if you know this, Jeff. Brad Stevens is from Indiana.
I've heard this.
And there's a coach at the University of Indiana who is not really living up to the expectations that Indiana fans expect out of their program. So clearly,
this happened last time. By the way, this is the same thing that happened. Now, again, a little different but when Tom Crean was on the hot seat at that point, it was I swear I think it was even like Brad might have just taken the Celtics job, and people still thought he was going to leave to go to Indiana at that point. Now, Brad, the one thing I'll say is if Brad gets fired by the Celtics after this year, after next year, whatever, he'll have multiple other opportunities within the NBA to stay in the league if he wants.
He's not coming back to college.
He's not. I mean, listen, to me, again, I still say if you're a Celtics fan, you have every right to be frustrated. You shouldn't be 13-13. But you need to see, and Kemba played okay against the Wizards. Jason Tatum was terrible. You need to see a healthy Kemba Walker still after the All-Star break, see what the Celtics look like. And ultimately, the seed means nothing in the Eastern Conference this year for the most part. If you're peaking at the right time, and they do have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they're missing Gordon Hayward. They're missing a guy who moves the basketball, to be honest.
Okay. No one cares about the NBA on the stream.
All right,
no one cares about your Celtics takes. Go talk to Bob Ryan about that.
It was Brad Stevens. There was a connection.
No one cares about the Celtics. Okay, here's what we're going to talk about. All right.
What are we talking about?
So we have two questions in the chat that I wanted to just get on real quick. Lake Show Magazine asked if he thinks Eastern Kentucky blows away Tennessee Tech or at least covers the 8. Yes, I like Eastern Kentucky in that spot. The other question was from 82 Atlantic, and he wants to know if Maryland makes the NCAA tournament. And I honestly think that they will. And this is why. They've played 20 games this season, right? 14 of them have been against quadrant 1 opponents. They're 4-10 in those quad 1 games. They played one of the toughest schedules in all of college basketball. I think that they are like number 2. They're number 1 right now in strength of schedule. And here's what they got the rest of the season.
Yeah,
I know they're 10-10 overall. Here's what they got the rest of the season. Nebraska at home on Tuesday. Nebraska at home on Wednesday. They're at Rutgers, which is another chance to get a quad 1 win.
Yeah.
Then they get Michigan State at home. They're at Northwestern, and they get Penn State at home.
They could win them all.
They probably should go at minimum 5-1 in those games. And with what they have right now, getting to 15-11 overall with their strength of schedule, that's hard for me to say. Strength of schedule,
5-1,
4 wins
in the Big Ten.
But think about it. They won at Wisconsin, right? They won at Illinois, which is one of the best wins anybody's going to have this year. Illinois is number 4 in the net. How many teams in the top 5 of the net have lost at home? Not many. That's one of the best wins anyone's going to have. They won at Minnesota. I know that's like nothing anymore, but winning on the road is winning on the road. So, yeah, I think Maryland, they have work to do, but I think they're going to get in. And to answer Colin Gorham's question, yes, I think Drake, as long as they don't do anything stupid the rest of the way.
That's the question, right? Yeah. That's the answer there, Rob. Like today, as of today, Drake is in Colin, but again, they got Northern Iowa on the road, Evansville twice, Bradley twice on the road. You can't go like 3-2 down the stretch now.
You have to win them all. The only game you can lose is to Loyola in the MVC title game if you want to get
pretty much.
But getting that win is what put themselves in the position, and they had to do that. All right, Jeffrey, we've been here for 30 minutes. If you guys want to find every single one of the picks that we are making, go and download the BetSperts app on any of the devices, whether it's the Google Play Store or the Android Store, whatever you people that don't use iPhones use to download the app from. It's there. It's also in the iPhone store and the what's the word I'm looking for? No, I can't. The app store. There you go. The app store. Yeah. So go download that. That's where we upload all of our picks. Yeah, Jeffrey, it's been fun.
Really fun. Riveting.